A community is in mourning, and our country is left wondering if we now simply accept something that should be completely unacceptable, something that should absolutely not be normal.
Political assassinations are rare. They strike at the very core of our democracy. But the details of Belter's crime are even worse. They are truly chilling. It is no exaggeration to say that his crimes are the stuff of nightmares. Belter stalked his victims like prey. He went to their homes, held them out as a police officer, and shot them in cold blood.
So this is what the victims saw when they opened their door to find the man police say, they allege, was Vance Belter. It's really striking. He was charged today by state and federal authorities with allegedly shooting two Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses on Saturday. Police say that he dressed like a cop and wore a rubber face mask, and those images are terrifying. Law enforcement today alleging that after he shot John and Yvette Hoffman, Belter visited two other lawmakers' homes. Then he killed Melissa and Mark Hortman in their home. His rampage ended there, but in the manhunt that followed, police found an apparent hit list with the names of more than 45 state and federal officials. All of this violence, all of this hatred and the death, it is not normal. We can't let it be normal. And yet, I guess we have to accept that something has been changing in America. The New York Times put it this way: like school shootings, political violence is becoming almost routine. I mean, let's think about it. The arson attack on the Pennsylvania governor and his family, the two assassination attempts against President Trump, the bludgeoning of Paul Pelosi by a man with a hammer, the deadly assault on the Capitol on January 6th, Steve Scalise shot at congressional baseball practice, Gabby Giffords shot at a supermarket while she met with constituents, Gretchen Whitmer, the Michigan governor, the target of a kidnapping attempt. Last year, Capitol Police investigated more than 9,000 threatening or concerning statements made against members of Congress, their families, and their staff. How high was that number 8 years ago? It was half that much. Political violence is becoming almost routine. We should not accept that.
I mean, this was a political assassination, which is not a word we use very often in the United States, let alone here in Minnesota. It's a chilling attack on our democracy, on our way of life. It's only the most recent example of violent political extremism in this country, and that's a trend that's been increasing in recent years, and that's unfortunate. And I hope it's a wake-up call to everyone that people can disagree with you without being evil or needing to be killed or hurt.
All right, our panel's here. We're also joined by CNN law enforcement correspondent Whitney Wild, who's live outside federal court in St. Paul, Minnesota. Whitney, you were inside court for this appearance. Take us inside the courthouse. What'd you see? What'd you hear? What else are we learning about the suspect?
Casey, this hearing was brief. Vance Belter came in. He was flanked by 3 deputy U.S. Marshals. He did not have shackles on his wrists or his feet. He was dressed in an orange jumpsuit with slippers. On the left-hand side of the courtroom were 3 prosecutors. Again, this was a very routine hearing for what is an extraordinary case, and the bulk of the hearing today focused on whether or not he can afford an attorney. He basically told the judge he cannot afford an attorney. He only works part-time. He only makes $540 a week, if that. Then he went through his other financial details, saying that he had 7 cars. He believed in his name, that he has a home, that it is paid off. And so there were just like, these, financial details that they had to get through in order to appoint him a public defender. And the judge said, based on the severity of these cases, he found it very unlikely that he'd be able to afford a private attorney that could defend him against, again, these very severe charges here. Casey, this ends what had been a weekend of fear here in Minnesota, a weekend of a lot of work for the dozens of law enforcement agencies, from the locals all the way up through the long alphabet of federal agencies that were involved here. And it ended as multiple SWAT teams descended on him, and this was late Sunday evening when they descended on him, basically encircled him and convinced him to come out peacefully. Casey, a remarkable moment because he had a firearm on him. They convinced him through their SWAT commands and through their negotiation tactics to crawl to them. He was taken into custody without incident. Today we are learning more details, and they are even more chilling than we could have imagined over the weekend. So I'm going to have you listen to the acting U.S. attorney here, who describes the moment he arrived at State Senator John Hoffman's house, kicking off this bloody rampage.
When Belter lowered his flashlight, which he had shined in their face, they realized that he was not a police officer. They shouted out, "You're not a cop. You're not a police officer." Belter then announced, "This is a robbery," and forced himself into their home. When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Belter out and stop him from entering his home, Belter shot him repeatedly. Belter then shot Miss Hoffman repeatedly. Belter fled the scene, and the Hoffman's daughter called 911.
Casey, absolutely terrifying. We also have a text message that he sent to his family afterward. This is according to the federal court documents. And he said, in effect, Dad went to war tonight, and he declined to provide them any more detail. Again, this was a chilling weekend, a terrifying weekend, a very complex case for law enforcement, but they were able to bring him into custody, Casey, and I cannot stress this enough. That this was the result of very good cooperation, very good working relationships between the locals and federal agencies here. And that was absolutely critical to bringing him into custody. They utilized all of the resources of the FBI. They also utilized the resources of the Minnesota State Police. They had eyes in the air, eyes on the ground. This was a full team effort that culminated in what is really basic law enforcement, boots on the ground, many teams encircling him on foot to bring him into custody, Casey. He will now remain in federal custody. There's also in state court, where we know he's facing a long list of charges, that he has been issued a bench warrant and has also been issued a $5 million bond there. But for now, he is in federal custody, Casey.
And of course, that house where he went, the Hoffman house, was the first of 4 houses that he visited over the course of this rampage. Whitney Wild, thanks very much for that reporting. What of these details stands out to you, and what are what are your questions about this?
Well, it's interesting you frame it that way, because what have we seen? We have seen Luigi Mangione, who decides that his issue is health care and comes out of the shadows as someone we've never heard of, and then kills the head of, the 4th largest corporation and the largest healthcare provider, insurance company in the country. Then we see, these other things, an attack on the governor of Pennsylvania. You see these incidents against elected officials here. You see the Capitol Police reporting that their level of threats against members of Congress are at all-time highs, and that they're in a constant state of threat assessment with these. We saw the Nancy Pelosi attack a couple of years ago in California that her husband suffered at the hands of an attacker. And you have to ask, so this can't be a state of new normal. It's just not acceptable. But how does one of these offenders' attack and the attention it received drive another offender to maybe speed up something they've been thinking about? And that is a big concern for local law enforcement across the country, and particularly the FBI.
So, Laura Coates, the legal aspects here, I mean, as Whitney reported, looking like he'll need a public defender. I'm interested to know how that might come into play here, especially because this could be a death penalty case. And we also are seeing, I believe the charges were second-degree murder. They need an indictment for first-degree murder. What's next here?
Well, for somebody who is indigent or unable to provide their own defense, still is required to have one. But we do have that 6th Amendment that says they are allowed to do so. It will be ironic for many jurors of the Court of Public Opinion to know that they are it was a political assassination alleged against somebody that is a member of office, an elected member, and they need to actually pay for somebody to defend against somebody taking up a life in that way. But what's next here is really going to be the digging into the details in terms of whether these crimes that have been charged at the federal level are sufficient enough. Right now, there's 6 different penalties. They could be life in prison. Remember, Minnesota is not a death penalty state, but these are federal crimes, and the federal death penalty is in effect. President Trump recently going back on what President Biden had done to commute sentences and restore the death penalty in certain instances. This will be the absence of a moratorium on the death penalty if he is convicted. It's important because people might think, well, it's a death penalty state. That's the only time it can apply. No, not here. But ultimately, there is that looming notion here of why he did it. If it was in somehow or some reason to try to change the government or to influence conduct, you may have more investigation about terrorism, may have more investigations about whether somebody helped him in some way, after the fact, aiding and abetting. All these things come into play. And most importantly, the federal crime does not negate the state level prosecutions at all. These will be essentially parallel track, but the death penalty, a higher penalty, will take precedent.